Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got another great show for you today. I was just educating Lindsey on the different housing options available to her in the District of Columbia.
I don't know why it's such a big, like I think I'm putting too much on the decision. Like it could be a 1 year thing or it could be a 2 year thing. But I'm like,
you can do anything for a year.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm stressing it out too much. I just gotta make a decision.
Yeah.
So I will shortly. Coming up on Rising, J.B. Pritzker is slamming the Trump administration, saying that they plan to deploy troops to Chicago.
Plus, ICE arrested a superintendent after they found out that he's an illegal immigrant.
And I'll be talking about how while the Democratic Party's donor class seems frustrated, they are still rallying around one common cause. And guess what that is? Fighting against President Trump. But first, Robby, what is on your radar?
I'm also talking about the Democrats fighting President Trump. Well, Democrats are, of course, furious over how the Trump administration is treating private companies and demanding compliance and even censorship. And the Democrats are vowing that when and if they're returned to power, they will treat private companies exactly the same way. Seriously, that's the plan. Punish anybody and everybody who went along with the Trump administration, made some decision that was in line with what Trump wanted, or made programming decisions that catered to the preferences of MAGA. Don't take my word for it. Here was what Democratic Representative Eric Swalwell had to say the other day as he vowed to vindictively investigate or even sanction Trump complicit companies and individuals.
Well, first, we are making it clear that we're going into the majority a year from now. We have every intention to do that, and so we will bring oversight, accountability. We will subpoena the Department of Justice, but also private actors who have done these drug deals with the administration, college campuses, entertainment companies, law firms. And so accountability is coming. And so, one, it's all coming out. Two, I hope that deters people from doing more of these deals, these one-offs with the president.
So the beatings will continue until morale improves. That's basically the Democrats' message. Don't do what Trump wants or we'll hurt you. Now, Swalwell is clearly referencing a couple different things. Universities agreeing to abide by certain education department policies, media companies ridding themselves of liberal, unfunny late-night hosts, law firms deciding not to do battle with Trump, and so on. I certainly don't agree with all of the decisions that these institutions have made, but they have the right to make them, and they have the right to react to incentives. Do I think the federal government should pressure these companies to behave a certain way? Well, of course not. I've said so. I've criticized Trump for being too heavy-handed when it came to the universities, to Kimmel, and on other issues. Just as I criticized Biden for exhorting social media companies to censor more content. What it sounds like, what Swalwell is conceding, is that the Democrats have no principled opposition to what Trump is doing whatsoever. They just don't like Trump. It's not a very good sales pitch. Imagine if Democrats were reacting to this mostly by saying, hey, you tech CEO, hey, you media company, hey, you law firm, school, or television host, when we're in charge, we're going to leave you alone. We'll let you do right by your customers and prosper as a firm, as a business, as an institution. That, I think, would be an enticing proposal. Maybe it would tempt more private sector leaders into supporting Democrats. But it ain't going to happen because Democrats are ideologically committed to the idea that they should use jawboning and antitrust and punitive regulation to destroy companies that get in their way, support policies they don't like, cause nebulous and ill-defined consumer harms as determined by the likes of Elizabeth Warren and Lena Khan, or are just plain too successful. Trump, on the other hand, is merely selectively opposed to firms that are mean to him. His opposition is not ideological whatsoever. It's personal, deeply personal. That's still not great, to be clear, but firms have figured out that they can work with it. Don't go too hard against Trump, and you're going to get left alone. Meanwhile, even if your company bends over backwards to appease the Democrats, there will still be committed progressives, even socialists within the party, who are determined to destroy you. Zohran Mamdani, anyone? Swalwell isn't even particularly progressive. He's just another liberal Democrat, and even he is dying to investigate companies and schools that went along with Trump. You can bet the hard left is salivating over the prospect of doing even more. Long story short, this is exactly why the business community is going to remain safely in Republican hands. I'm sorry. I'm sure that nobody at ABC or CBS or wherever else likes getting yelled at by Trump, but they likely know that the alternative is much, much worse for their businesses.
I'm so sad. I want to cry.
Oh.
I'm really,
Oh.
because
You need a
yeah, I need a Kleenex.
need a tissue? Yeah.
Because hold on.
Yeah, there we
But
go.
listen, I don't understand how you're reading that and you're saying, of course, I don't like it. It's bad, but bow down to Trump or he won't work with you. They learn how to work with that strategy. That's an embarrassing strategy. That's not a good strategy that we want our president to be using. Strong arming folks and play nice with me.
Democrats are going to strong arm them
because
anyway.
it's a personal vendetta. Democrats are trying to put government oversight in places where they're trying to oversee and do what the government is tasked to do. Trump is having a political vendetta against
And that's
people
not personal
that he
at
doesn't
all.
like personally and saying, do what I want, otherwise I'll sue you and put it in my presidential library. Now, at the same time, I think that most Americans, because we probably would agree here, feel like Congress is, and the president and everybody are just doing too much with the back and forth. I think America as a whole is exhausted by the constant, like, you do this, I do this, like, no one's ever gonna end it. You've mentioned many examples of Democrats doing things that to me felt like an overreach. I've mentioned many examples of Trump doing things and his administration doing things. But I think when you put Harvard University, Columbia University, CBS and Paramount into a corner, I can't criticize them for the decisions that they made when they want to continue to move forward with business.
Democrats want to investigate them.
Yeah, but
they want to haul them before
that's
Congress.
why I'm saying I don't agree with what Swalwell's saying to continue to move down that rabbit hole, but I understand the need for oversight because it's like, well, if you made this deal with Trump, what does it look like as the administration changes or when the next Republican comes in? Like, what have you said off the record or off camera? Like, we know that the Columbia deal, for example, was $200 million and a bunch of other things written in there about what they will do. But what else did you tell him? Or what behind the scenes? Because you said it's personal. So I think that should make any government official concerned to say, well, this is personal and about what Trump wants to be done rather than the good for the American people, which I hope when Democrats are doing investigations are to come up with information to find what American people are looking for.
The Democrats think that they know what's
something
good
totally
for the American
different.
people, which is
But Trump's not even
contrary
pretending to try to know,
No, he's not.
what's good with
But
the American people.
Okay, I'm the CEO of Robby Corp. We are a alternate media platform. We make videos or something. We've been very successful.
Okay.
Now we could if we have to deal with Trump, then we know that he got mad at us over something, but we've kind of fixed that relationship. We know not to make him mad anymore, and we had to give like $10 million to his inaugural fund or something. That's the one outcome. The other is the Democrats.
That's like bribery.
Let me finish. It's not personal, but they want to break Robby Corp. Robby Corp has been too successful. They want to break Robby Corp up into many smaller companies. They want to change Robby Corp's liability protection so that it's more easy to sue us. They think Robby Corp is too bad for children or whatever, and so they're going to make us have a digital ID to sign into Robby Corp.
I like some of those first parts of your statement.
They want to regulate and tax Robby Corp much more heavily. It's just like, forget it. We're going to support Trump. I'm going to give $20 million to the inaugural fund. Can't have Democrats in charge. And it's for the American people's own good. The American people love Robby Corp. They use it at very high numbers. They get information.
Okay,
There's this nice program called Rising on it. That's the situation.
In an ideal world, public interest.
Robby Corp is going MAGA for this reason.
In an ideal world, public interest should spark oversight. It shouldn't be revenge that's sparking oversight.
Democrats get to decide what public interest is?
But if they hear their constituents, that's the best thing to me. If people at home are saying, hey, I have kids that are on the Robby Corp app and it's deteriorating their mental wellness. They've been sadder. They've been more depressed. They've been having conversations that I'm not
I'd like to
comfortable
see
with.
some statistical evidence of that.
That people on social media... Okay, you're saying, I'm saying these have been complaints from parents about social media, and then you're like, keep your kid off of it, right? It's easy to say they go to school and have access to these things.
Well, keep
them out of school and homeschool them?
No, the schools
keep apps out of school.
Phones out of school.
So you want to make everybody else be responsible, except for the companies that are making addictive software and things that parents are, it's very addictive. There are several studies about how addictive social media has become with even the creating this feeling of euphoria when you see somebody like something. Like, it was intentional, and then the alerts that you get. Now, you can turn them all off, but there's been therapists and people that have researched how social media affects our brain.
They said this about TV and video games and the radio and every communication innovation in the history of mankind, and it's all proven to be nonsense. So I remain skeptical on that front.
Fine. Up next, Benjamin Netanyahu is apologizing for an Israeli airstrike in the capital of Qatar. Why his apology could be the first step towards building a peace deal with Hamas.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly made a rare apology Monday for launching a strike earlier this month near Doha, Qatar. According to a report from Axios, President Trump hosted the trilateral call between the Israelis and the Qatari prime ministers, where Netanyahu did apologize for violating Qatari sovereignty, and he also expressed regret for killing a Qatari security officer in the strike. Netanyahu then also reportedly agreed to pay compensation to the family of that officer. Now, that apology also apparently was a key condition to resuming mediation with Hamas over a deal to potentially end the war and free the remaining hostages.
Now, that deal would allegedly include an international board of peace to govern and reconstruct the Gaza Strip, and leading the board will be President Trump. According to the 20-point plan released Monday by the White House, Trump would be the chair of the transitional body, which would oversee the framework and funding for redevelopment of the Gaza Strip until the Palestinian Authority has met certain conditions to assume governance. Here's President Trump on Monday.
My plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, the Board of Peace, we call it, the Board of Peace, sort of a beautiful name. It will be responsible for recruiting and training a new government that will be made up of Palestinians along with highly qualified experts from all around the world. Hamas and other terrorist factions will play no role in the board, but they'll play no role in the governance of Gaza at all, directly or indirectly.
Also on the proposed board, former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. A senior Hamas official said Monday that they were not involved in the drafting of this plan, nor were they given a copy. But Trump was insistent yesterday that if Hamas did not agree to this deal, the U.S. would support Israeli action.
Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas. But I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace. And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do.
I mean, I simply don't know, but remain dubious of this proposition that Hamas is going to accept a deal in which they lose power, control over Gaza. I wish that they would accept such a deal. That would be great. We need, I support a separate Palestinian state, government, etc., that is not run by Hamas. The Palestinian Authority, though they have many defects themselves, are certainly preferable, and that is the best case scenario. That seems fine by me. I'm glad President Trump is trying to arrive at this end. I'm glad Israel is on board for that. It was obviously correct of Netanyahu to apologize to Qatar for what happened there. It shouldn't have happened in the first place, but after it's done, what can you do but apologize and hopefully never do it again, although I certainly wouldn't put it past them. The point is we certainly need peace, but is Hamas going to agree to a peace that they lose control of Gaza? I don't foresee them really doing that. They seem to have a elaborate capacity for the destruction of their own people, for the wholesale slaughter of the innocent people of Gaza. They don't care. So if they didn't care before, I don't know why they'd care. They don't even care as many of their own members are wiped off the earth. So I don't understand their motivation to just cling to power at all costs. It's the motivation of a terrorist group, not a state actor, because usually state actors eventually surrender to stave off total destruction of their people. See Imperial Japan or whoever else, but that's not the case here.
I think the biggest thing that concerned me is when this transitional committee is led by President Trump, knowing that in the past few months, President Trump said some pretty unsavory remarks and even retweeted an AI video that showed like a Trump palace on the Gaza Strip. People condemned him for, and has mentioned in the Oval Office, like, oh yeah, the Gaza Strip should become like this beautiful piece of land, and like.
Yeah, well, he's backed away from the idea of.
Yeah, but he's overseeing it and saying like, yes, the Palestinians in this deal reportedly will get some type of authority over the space as long as Hamas is not involved. But Netanyahu has already said we do not want to fully recognize a Palestinian state. So it's contradictory, like you said, based on the history of the relationship, that at the end of the day, even if Hamas did agree to this and allowed some other body and Palestinian Authority to be put in place, agreed to never become or not have it written down that they would get statehood. Because I think that seems like the ultimate goal for the Palestinian people. Whether it is for Hamas, I don't know.
And according to the deal, the Palestinian people can come and go as they please, right? There's no, you have to leave the land. They should be able to, which is all good. They should stay there if they want. They should go elsewhere if they want. That's all fine. It's a good deal. I have no problem with the deal at all. I just don't think Hamas will accept it. They should.
Some of the realistic thing I think that is Trump's goal in this is having Israel have a better allyship with a lot of Middle Eastern countries. One of them specifically was Saudi Arabia. He talked about that is a goal, that there's a more, I guess, a flowing relationship between the two bodies. And Saudi Arabia is like, well, we need to see Palestinian statehood at the end of the day to make a two-state solution. And I don't know that that's going to be an agreement that everybody can come to the table with. So at the very least, I think if you wanted Hamas to accept the deal, even though it is a terrorist organization, perhaps they should have been in the conversation, or perhaps Middle Eastern countries should have talked to them more often, because it seems like they're like
Israel blew up the
laissez-faire.
negotiators.
Right, Israel blew in Qatar. I know, I understand. So now we're kind of at a standstill, and it's like, well, what does everybody want in this? Because the Middle Eastern countries are being suggested as places that, you know, people should flee from Gaza, and maybe they should be doing more to kind of negotiate this. So it sounds good on paper, like perhaps there's a step forward. And that video that the White House posted on their Instagram yesterday was very dramatic, with him walking around with Netanyahu. And but it feels very for show. Like, why couldn't you leave with an agreement to stop at least the killing in the meantime as you
Because Hamas hasn't agreed to anything. They're not privy to these negotiations. They haven't. They said they hadn't even seen a copy of the agreement.
Well, I understand, but I mean, there's been conversations happening since Trump took office earlier this year. And so what is Hamas privy to? We're not privy to that information of what they're looking for. It seems like there's conflicting reports, and I'm not saying we should believe everything coming out of the Hamas official communications, but they've been saying no, they didn't.
Well, they
come
want
up
an
with any
end to the
realistic
existence
terms.
of Israel. So
But that hasn't been written down on paper, end Israel, right? So that's not what I'm seeing.
That's in their motto.
My point is, we need to be part of the American public that's interested in actually funding the tax bill and saying they maybe don't want us sending money over to Israel, needs to be involved in this conversation about or have transparency at the very least about what is the disconnect. Why is it taking 9 months to talk about the same thing since Trump took office? And we have looked like we haven't gotten anywhere. And at the same time, a lot of people are pushing back on how much Israel is or isn't doing.
Yeah, domestically,
and we're not getting any further.
Domestically, Israel is losing a PR war. Support for Israel is tanking among young people of all political affiliations. On the Democratic side, there's just tremendous discord, a disappointment in Democratic leadership for not being tougher on Israel across the board. And then on the conservative side, young people on the right are manifestly skeptical, hostile, critical, even too critical, and in some ways critical. It's now extending to just Jewish people in general. This is a PR disaster on Israel's part. The wanton destruction, the images on social media of the people starving and dying. So maybe that is Hamas's strategy, to hold out until the U.S. opinion sours so drastically that the funding gets cut, and hoping that.
But even the overall U.S. opinion doesn't match with President Trump's opinion. He said this is the last deal, or Israel basically has carte blanche to do whatever they want, kind of just.
Yeah, Trump. I mean,
we're going to support them.
Trump wants peace, but he supports Israel, and he's doesn't support Hamas, and wants them to all come to. I mean, he's a very rational actor in all of this. I agree with him, but it's a frustrating situation, and I would rather have us be less involved rather than more. Next up, the governor of Illinois had some harsh words for the Trump administration as it is sending National Guard troops to Chicago. More on that next. Don't go anywhere.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is blasting the Trump administration for what he says is their plan to deploy 100 military troops to Chicago.
Pritzker said that the DHS sent a memo to the DOD about needing protection for ICE personnel and facilities.
Here's the governor laying into the Trump administration. Take a look.
ICE is running around the loop, harassing people for not being white. Just a year ago, that was illegal in the United States. Now, ICE is making it commonplace. This is not about fighting crime or about public safety. This is about sowing fear and intimidation and division among Americans. It was about creating a pretext to send armed military troops into our communities.
Pritzker also made comments that caught the attention of some conservatives on X. Let's listen.
When you add to that the Trump administration's effort to label as dangerous free speech critical of him. White House senior staff calling the Democratic Party fascist. You cannot call this anything except an attack on the Constitution of the United States.
ICE agents were spotted in Chicago on Monday, and federal agents clashed with protesters throughout the weekend. Trump posted footage of one of these confrontations and wrote, "Border Patrol will take no nonsense." Interesting that J.B. Pritzker is objecting to Democrats being called fascist.
That was. I thought he should hold off on that
Trump
line.
is,
Because
they both people are mad that they get called. Look, everybody.
They both throw
I
it
actually
around.
don't
It's
care.
dramatic.
This is
Yeah.
silly. We all use,
Over dramatic terms.
overhyped. Obama is a communist, Marxist, socialist,
treasonous. According to you didn't say that, but that was.
But I would
according
say
to the
he was a
administration.
communist. Is he actually a communist? No, he was a state corporatist type person. He's a progressive, etc. And is Trump? J.D. Vance called Trump Hitler. It doesn't. People use overheated language. I don't care. I don't think there's a connection between overheated language and violence for the most part.
The connection that I see the most clearly is the fact that every state.
But you can't complain
is
they're being
saying,
called fascist if your own people are calling Trump fascist all the time.
But yes, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
The root of this issue is that we keep seeing this is like a broken record. Trump wants to go into a new city or state. Half people don't agree, half the people agree. It makes an uncomfortable, tension-filled situation when he can just have dialogue with local officials, which is standard, even in a national emergency, like a real one.
But he wants to deport all the illegal immigrants, and the local officials don't. So it's you're saying that there's mixed views on it, but the federal government's view is that we can send in ICE to deport the illegal immigrants.
Right, but he's going around and putting fear in the locals' hearts to even bring their kids to school or do normal things when there could be a way to handle this, like the bill that was almost passed when President Trump was running, but he asked all Republicans not to vote for that bipartisan bill through Congress that would have put, hopefully, a long-term plan on how to settle this immigration chaotic situation that we're in. And obviously Biden wasn't handling well either.
So this is deporting vast.
Well, yeah, but businesses are failing. The economy is tanking because of it. Like there's several repercussions to it. So it's not like Trump's way or the highway is the American people's way. And if he's the president of American people, he is actually hurting and doing many things by not just deporting the criminals that he promised to deport on the campaign trail. So all I'm saying is dialogue is necessary in order for realistic long-term solutions. And he's skipping that whole part. He's skipping Congress, which is pretty standard for him at this point. And he's skipping conversations with local leaders. And Republicans have ran on the fact that they like states to independently run themselves and cities to independently run themselves.
Not on immigration.
Because everyone is different. Yeah, that's the one caveat. You can't be like the people that want everyone to lead, except with the issue that I feel fired up about or got my base fired up.
Well, the Supreme Court has said that's a federal issue and that states can't have their own immigration policies.
Okay, so that he needs to push it back through Congress and create a federal law, like we were trying to do.
Well, I mean, the law just says they're illegal immigrants, so they're subject to deportation.
You actually don't agree with what you're saying right now. You don't think
No,
it's the
I'm
best
just explaining what the
solution
justification is.
I know, but you don't agree with it.
I know, but yes, I
So
would
he's
not
justified to
support
move forward, but
otherwise.
it also is
Well,
not
he's
the best
legally-
way to run our country. It's not the
You have
best
to make.
way.
I'm saying you have to make a consequentialist argument. You can't say he's not allowed to do it, or you say here's why doing it is worse overall for the country, which is what you were saying. And
Right, he
I
can go.
mostly agree.
He
with,
can't
but
go in there for random crime. I guess
No,
he
he
can go in there
can.
for immigration. No,
He can go in there for immigration.
right, that's it.
Right.
But not random crime. So next on Rising, we're 9 months into Trump's second presidential term, and Democrats are still trying to figure out what's next for the party. Stick around. We'll talk about it.
Lindsey, what's in your lens today?
I'm kind of on the same page with you, with your radar, so let's talk about it. So Democrats are frustrated, and not quietly. The party's donor class is openly questioning whether leadership even has a pulse. After losing the White House and Senate and failing to win back the House, they say the party lacks both direction and a message that sticks. One donor put it bluntly in conversation with The Hill, saying, quote, "We still haven't been able to find our feet, and no one is excited about anything. But I think a lot of people are realizing that if we do nothing, we cede control to Trump, and enough is enough." That's the thesis Democrats can't ignore. Love for the party isn't what's keeping the lights on. It's fear of Donald Trump, now in his second term. That fear is tangible. Donors pointed to a, quote, escalating threat of freedom of speech as a reason they started writing checks again. For some, it was the decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel off the air after his comments about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. For others, it was Trump's immigration crackdown or even his bizarre statement linking Tylenol almost definitively to autism. As one donor said, quote, "It gets worse every day." But don't mistake fear for loyalty. Another California donor didn't mince words, describing the Democratic Party as, quote, "incompetent, arrogant, insular, and tone deaf." The numbers definitely back up that Trump fatigue, though. The Republican National Committee is sitting on $84 million, and the Democrats just $15 million. So they have some work to do. And while some individuals like John Morgan, who's a prominent injury lawyer, tell The Hill they're still cutting the checks, he's also drawn sharp boundaries, saying, quote, "I will only give to a Democrat if they are not identified as a Democratic socialist." He went on to say, quote, "The idea of handing a pile of cash to people who spend like drunken sailors is a bad idea." But here's the paradox. While the party brand is battered, a Quinnipiac poll shows only 30% of Americans view Democrats favorably right now. That's actually the lowest rating since 2008. Democratic voters themselves are actually fired up. According to a CNN SSRS poll, 72% of Democratic and Democratic-leaning voters are, quote, "extremely motivated to vote ahead of these midterms coming up in 2026, compared to 50% of Republicans and Republican-leaning voters." Why? Because Trump is the great equalizer. No matter how fractured or disillusioned Democrats feel about their own party, Trump is such a polarizing figure that he unifies them. Democrats don't need to be in love with their party to show up. They just need to be clear-eyed about who's sitting in the Oval Office. So here's the suggested path forward. Democrats can fight over ideology in 2028, when the Trump era finally ends and a real debate over the party's soul can take center stage. But in 2026, the mission is way simpler. Unity is not optional. Call it a temporary truce. Progressives and centrists don't have to agree on everything, but they do have to agree on one thing: stopping Trump's grip on Congress. If Democrats want to win, they'll need less navel-gazing, more coalition building, and a message that goes beyond "we're not Trump." Because fear might open wallets, but hope is actually what gets people to the polls.
I mean, you're right that pathological dislike of Donald Trump is the thing that unites the Democratic Party. Of course, Trump himself won't be on the ballot in the midterms or, again, on the presidential election ballot.
If he can have anything to do with it, he's going to try.
I mean, I actually don't think Democrats will have much trouble working up maybe not exactly the same level of fury toward J.D. Vance or whoever it is, probably J.D. Vance. But I think
it'll be a little bit less, honestly.
Maybe it'll be less.
He seems more reasonable in a debate setting, even.
Having a common enemy will not be their problem. Their problem is, you're right, that there's a substantial progressive faction or further left faction, and then a substantial, it's really two parties. I mean, AOC has said this. It's crazy that she and whoever, the most moderate senator is from the Democratic Party, that they share a party. But they do share a party, and that they need a candidate that picks a direction. And I think
Republicans don't need that, right? You said Trump just picks, and he's maybe the anomaly, but he just picks what he thinks works. But he doesn't align with traditional conservative values. We talk about that all the time, and how MAGA calls him on some of those things, and then older Republicans call him on other things, and he's like, I'm not doing either.
The dynamic in the Republican Party is different because it's just Trump is in charge, and then you're right that there's the more NatCon, Steve Bannon, populist faction. There's more like libertarian tech people like Elon Musk, but Trump is just Trump, and you're competing for him to agree with you on issue by issue, to agree with your faction issue by issue. That's how it works on the Republican side. The Democratic side does not have that phenomenon. There's not some leader they're looking to persuade to be more progressive or less progressive. Rather, they are competing to have a leader of the progressive faction, someone like Bernie Sanders or AOC or whoever, win the nomination, or on the more moderate side, someone like Josh Shapiro or I don't know who else, Jared Polis, and then you have people like Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris who I think are quite progressive, but progressives hate them, and they're not really centrist either, and I don't know. They kind of transcend those categories, but not in ways that actually help them. And it's a mess on the Democratic side.
My best advice, as it is a mess, is to bump all that. The midterms are coming up, and there's enough that Trump is doing wrong, since that is the galvanizing thing, to say, hey, let's talk about this. Your Medicaid might go away. Check out the big, beautiful bill. Look at how the immigration is going, just making people scared in your community that are not criminals. There's so many things they can look to say, okay, maybe Americans don't feel this way. And there are a lot of conservative voices or people who have aligned with Trump in the past, like Joe Rogan, speaking up about some of the things that he's doing around immigration, or Megyn Kelly saying, oh, if we go into Chicago, that doesn't feel like something that as much as I like President Trump, I don't think is a good thing. Like, so there's policies and this criticism. Marjorie Taylor Greene, we talked about yesterday, so many things. Epstein, she just disagrees across the board for the most part lately. So there's so many things that Democrats can just point to say, we'll do something different, but don't just only stop there and say, we're only Trump. They have to first unify, like just start with saying, cool, we support Mamdani. Like, just say that. And because it's just like we are supporting somebody.
Well, that's
such
easy
disarray.
to do when it's because Mamdani's just running to be mayor of New York City. And similarly with the midterms, the congressional races, you need to, the candidate in Kansas is different than the candidate in California. Fine. But when time comes to have a national...
But time is not here right now.
That's when they're going to be in for some trouble, because I think if the progressives don't get their way again, that's 3 in a row, I think they're going to be really unhappy. They're going to say, we keep losing because you don't let our candidate be the candidate. Now, I don't know that I think Bernie, who had some crossover appeal, actually probably would have performed well in 2016. I'm less clear about that in the more recent elections. In 2016, I do plausibly think he would have won. But they have that narrative, and they could just stay home, and they could tank the whole nomination or the whole candidacy of the.
Yeah, I haven't followed up. Obviously, I'm not embedded within the Democratic Party to know what the real high-level conversations are. I read the New York Times and find out that they're trying to find their own Joe Rogan and nonsense like that. And my best advice as somebody who thinks that, there is a big L that happened in 2024 and it's time to move forward, is to just unify right now. Because obviously what they're yelling and screaming with their silence is that they need more time to organize and come up with what the next iteration of this party looks like. Because I don't know that the centrist Democrat is really going to work anymore. Somebody who's trying to just be nice to everybody or going up there campaigning, saying something totally different than how they campaigned locally or governed locally. So that's also going to be a problem. But while they hash that out amongst themselves and come up with all their crazy solutions to spend millions of dollars, just support the candidates that are locally, just talk about all the things that Trump's doing wrong, and also just lay out a couple policies that maybe the party can agree on, because there are enough things like, okay, we want to make sure people have medical coverage, right? Like the extension of affordable. I mean, we're going to talk about it today, whether it happens, whether the government shuts down. So I think there's very simple ways to communicate with your base without saying, okay, the whole party's direction looks like this for 2028.
Next up, the superintendent of the Des Moines Public School District has been arrested by ICE. Next, what we're learning about Dr. Ian Roberts. Stay with us. ICE has arrested the superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools, which is the largest school district in Iowa. Immigration officials say Superintendent Ian Roberts has been living in the country illegally and was found in possession of a loaded handgun.
Now, ICE posted a breakdown of the situation on its website saying, quote, during a targeted enforcement operations, officers approached Roberts in his vehicle after identifying himself, but he sped away. Officers later discovered his vehicle abandoned near a wooded area. State Patrol assisted in locating the subject, and he was taken into ICE custody. It goes on to say, quote, Roberts has existing weapon possession charges from February 5th, 2020. Roberts entered the United States on a 1999 student visa and was given a final order of removal by an immigration judge in May of 2024. Now, according to the district's website, Roberts was hired as a superintendent in 2023. He previously spent more than 20 years as an educator and school leader in several other states. He actually ran for the Olympics in his home country of Guyana.
Roberts has been placed on administrative leave while he is detained. The district is facing major backlash online for hiring him, but of course insists it did not know about his removal order. Interim Superintendent Matt Smith writes, I want to be clear, no one here was aware of any citizenship or immigration issues that Dr. Roberts may have been facing. The accusations ICE has made against Dr. Roberts are very serious, and we are taking them very seriously. A new wrinkle in the story, Fox News, as well as columnist Dustin Granger, are reporting that Roberts has an active voter status and has been registered to vote as a Democrat in Maryland. Fox's article on the matter says, quote, Republican state delegate Matt Morgan, who's chair of the Maryland House Freedom Caucus, told Fox News Digital that Roberts' registration means he is eligible to vote in all federal, state, and local elections, despite not being a U.S. citizen, and also despite likely not having lived in Maryland for the past decade. Well, voter fraud, Lindsey. They keep saying it never happens. How interesting.
Well, because you have one example of something doesn't mean it's running rampant.
I have two.
Okay, but because you have two in a world full of thousands of Americans doesn't mean
accumulating examples.
Accumulate thousands and then have a case study and we'll discuss it. But my biggest question when I read the story was Roberts a great man? Did he teach the students incredibly? Were they deeply impacted by his presence? So, yes, let's remove the great superintendent who's doing great things for our kids' lives
He has an illegal
and get him
weapons
out of
charge.
No, it was a hunting rifle and they knew about it. It was disclosed as a weapon charge related to his hunting rifle before he even got accepted for the job. So this is what's being reported out there, that they already knew that he had a hunting weapon charge and was not supposed to have possession of it. So listen, the school district and
If you have an illegal weapons charge, you're not supposed to subsequently have any weapons.
I'm just telling
So
you.
he's
They
found
said
with a
they
loaded
said they still
handgun.
knew about his weapon charge, so that wasn't breaking news to them. Now with the new handgun, that's an
If
actual
you even
problem.
chew your Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun, they expel you from school. So it's a little...
So the DHS is describing him as a, quote, criminal alien and saying that he's a public safety threat. But the school board, like the president of the entire Des Moines Public School, Jackie Norris, said Roberts was a, quote, integral part of our school community, that he consistently showed up for kids and staff. And so those sounds like an honorable man. And like you said, if anybody digs through anything, we talked about this needle in a haystack yesterday to try to find something to take you down, they will. They'll take you down.
No, they
and
won't
so
find illegal weapons charges.
You said that anybody tries to
they'll find
a needle in a haystack, they can find a reason to charge you.
They'll get you on something they'll get you on obstruction, perjury.
So let's say your
saying
kid was
something
learning
wrongful
brilliantly.
in an interview.
Let's say your kid-
maybe having signed some form, some kind of financial issue. They won't get you on illegal guns charges unless you have illegal guns. Let's
say your kid was having a brilliant, well-educated life under Roberts, and he was such a prestigious part of your schooling for your kid, and it was really amazing for some parents, which seems to be the experience for the president of the school board to speak up in this way. Would you be a little bit sad that this man who had an incredible positive influence on the schooling of 30,000 kids is now being removed because ICE is on some weird vendetta?
I'm sad that an
Trump
illegal
runs
immigrant
himself
was voting.
from personal. That's the biggest issue to you, rather than somebody who's.
Do you not concede that that's an issue?
For sure, he shouldn't be voting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but but we're talking about
If I
removing a man out
deliberately
of a
voted
school.
twice, they could charge me
Fine,
with a
Fox
crime.
News found this. We'll see the research. We'll point it out. I'll read the whole article later today, make sure it has validity. We can park that joint right there. And separately, we can talk about how a man who had an incredible influence got removed from a
We don't
school
even know
because
that
of
he had an incredible.
This is what the president of Des Moines School District said. Jackie Norris, I just named the lady. She has a direct proximity to that man. I'm just reading a quote.
Wow,
I'm not
what a
saying.
guy.
Yeah, she said, like, if somebody
Wow.
asks me about you and I say, what a guy, like, you can base it off my experience. I work with you every single day.
I don't have a loaded handgun despite being prohibited from having weapons.
Okay, so
And I didn't vote illegally.
So this was the type of immigrant that you wanted removed when President Trump said we want all criminals. This is the type of criminal you were talking about, yes?
He has.
I'm making sure. This is the type of criminal, a leader of a school district who's doing a great job according to the president of the school district. You want him removed because he had a hunting gun charge, which made him not eligible to have a handgun and had one in his
and
home.
he voted illegally. So
No.
that's two things.
Forget the voting part. I'm talking about, would you want that teacher removed?
He did vote illegally, so yes, I want him removed.
So that's the criminal that you wanted when Trump was like, I'm on the campaign trail, I want criminals out of here. That's the type of guy.
He fled from law enforcement.
Because he probably knows he's supposed to get out of here in 2024.
Don't flee from law enforcement. It creates dangers for yourself, for law enforcement, and for other people. Don't ever flee from. You can't just flee. We're trying to stop you. You can't just run. You can't do that. Can't do that.
So he broke the law, so he needs to go.
Well, that's 3 laws.
That's your
Fleeing
strike.
from law enforcement, voting illegally, loaded handgun despite prior weapons charge. No dice.
Look, I understand.
See ya.
Rules are rules.
Gone.
I'm very much.
Gone.
I'm very much a rule follower, right? My friends call me a
Gone.
Poindexter in that way. But I do believe this man was an upstanding community man, and people have
Except for the gun
been
charge,
worse.
fleeing arrest, and illegally voting.
Well, this is what the Des Moines school district said his experience was in the school.
Well,
I'm talking about a man getting arrested right after school and them chasing him down to get him out of the country because of his status as a migrant, as opposed to the fact that he voted. That's not why they were after him. So
we can find nice things to say about literally anyone. Hitler was a terrific painter.
No, come on.
So
now.
whatever. Like
That's not. I think that comparison is ridiculous. Hitler,
It was a ridiculous.
That's a ridiculous. Thank you. That's a ridiculous
I'm just-
comparison.
The fact that somebody said something nice about him doesn't mean that he gets to stay in the country illegally after violating numerous other rules.
Okay, well, I'm glad that they're going to do whatever their next steps are, and I'm really excited for them to find the students a superintendent who seemingly,
I really don't
according
appreciate
to the
when people
president,
run for
cared
police.
as much as.
High-speed chases are dangerous. If the police shoot at you, they could. I mean, I'm not trying to take all the responsibility away from the police because they sometimes pursue people in ways that are reckless for third parties, but there's no right to flee from the police, so don't do that.
For sure, we can agree about that.
Yeah.
We can agree that he shouldn't have been voting if he's not
been
does not, and
voting.
specifically in Maryland is even more random. We agreed to several things here, but like I said,
That's
my
a
first
lot of
initial thought,
sketchy stuff
my
here.
first initial thought was, wow, 1999 to 2025 made it all the way up in several school districts to be a leader that has been recommended
didn't
by the
use an
president
E-Verify
of
here.
school district. But then so maybe you want digital IDs to come back then. That'll solve your problems here, and then we'll make sure that somebody who is apparently well-meaning and getting through all these different accolades in his career to lead 30,000 kids, it won't happen. Even if you might be qualified for the job or good for the job, because you're a migrant, you won't have that digital ID, and then we'll skip over all these issues. So maybe you should change your
don't want the
perspective on that.
digital ID, no.
So how do you want to solve this then? Just have the federal government doing what they're doing, just continue on this way.
We're solving it.
And in the meantime, getting all the
solved.
in the meantime, cutting out all the farm workers and
Well,
cutting out all the
I
low.
don't want to cut out the farm workers.
Yeah, but it's
you're
all
not
in
even
one- it's all
willing
in
to
one
kick out
clump.
the superintendent who's thrice a felon. I mean, there's got to be some kind of. You got to meet me halfway here. I don't. This has got to go. He's got to go. This is going to be a. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, we'll just watch the story and see how it happens, I guess. Another social media company is giving a big payout to President Trump. We're going to have more on his lawsuit against YouTube right after this.
The Wall Street Journal first reported that YouTube has agreed to pay President Trump $24.5 million to settle a lawsuit.
Now, the lawsuit stemmed from when YouTube banned Trump after the January 6th riot at the Capitol in 2021. Court documents say that most of the money will go to the Trust for the National Mall and the new White House ballroom that's being constructed. The rest of the money, $2.5 million, will go to others involved in the case.
Other big tech and media companies have also paid Trump millions to settle lawsuits. Meta agreed to pay $25 million to Trump over lawsuits stemming from his Facebook suspension in 2021. X agreed to settle for $10 million for a similar reason. ABC News, meanwhile, agreed to send $15 million to Trump's presidential library in December over a defamation lawsuit. And Paramount paid Trump $16 million over a lawsuit that alleged CBS deceptively edited an interview with then presidential candidate Kamala Harris.
Now, founder of Democracy Docket, Mark Elias, wrote on Blue Sky, quote, another big tech company capitulated today as YouTube agreed to pay $24.5 million to settle a bogus lawsuit brought by Trump.
And executive director for the Foundation for Freedom Online, Mike Benz, wrote on X that what he really thinks is going on is, quote, Google needs Trump's help in the AI race at home and to protect it from costly regulations abroad, which is exactly what's going on. This all ties into my radar from today. They would rather make a one-time payment to Trump, even though if they took this to court, they would win. There's no, I think the moderation decisions, the censorship of Trump and other conservatives was wrong. It happened to us. I talked about this earlier this week or last week, how the Hills channel was wrongfully suspended as well. But at the end of the day, there's no right to a YouTube account. It's a private company. They can platform whom they want. So he doesn't have a right to be on there. It was a bad call. It was contrary to their own rules, and they were correct to reverse it. Do I think they should owe him or anyone else money? No. If it went to court, they wouldn't have to pay. But they need to get along with Trump because the Republican Party is the one party more likely to have light tech regulation that is going to empower our companies to innovate in the AI space and remain globally competitive and beat out China. So it's exactly what we were talking about. The vendetta, if you're mean to Trump, he fights you. If you just play ball with him, he doesn't care. He leaves you alone. Tech CEOs, Robby Corp, as we were talking about.
Go back to Robby
We
Corp.
just want to be left alone, so we'll make that one-time payment, and we'll all get along, and it'll be fine. And we'll keep the Democrats at bay, who are the real threat to our companies.
This is a shakedown. You're watching our president. Put that graphic back up if we have it. All the people that paid him. 10 million from this, 15 million. Like, this is a shakedown. This is like what did Ted Cruz say last week? It felt like the Italian mobsters who are like shaking people down. This all feels like that.
And they go to
$22 million to go to fund a Mar-a-Lago style ballroom that no one asked for sounds like a corporate conflict of interest. A private company doing that.
Who can the tech companies go to in politics for help and say, we're being shaken down, we're being extorted by the Trump administration? If you came to power,
extortion is a better word than shakedown.
If you came to power, would you help us? Would you protect us? There's no one like this. The Democratic Party is like, no, when we come to power, we are going to ruthlessly investigate you and break you into little pieces if we can. If we gain power, we will destroy you.
Yeah,
that's the Democratic Party's
extortion.
message.
You're part of the problem. You have the money, like you said, to fight and win in court. Most of these companies do. But they're like, we'll just play the game real quick, pay him a couple of dollars. He'll do what we say.
I'm saying that's
we'll keep
easier.
Republicans in power. I know, but it's also easier just to have a little bit of oversight so that we can make sure that whatever product you're providing is also good for the American people and not good in some morally esoteric way. Like
the Democrats could challenge this by having tech policies that were more favorable to tech than the Republican Party and Donald Trump's. And then tech used to be more Democratic aligned. Elon Musk was more Democratic aligned. Mark Zuckerberg was extremely Democratic aligned. What happened is the amount of money, the goodwill, nothing worked because the Democratic Party hates them ideologically. So they can't, there's no point. So they're all happy MAGAs now.
The greed took over as opposed to providing a good app in their instance or experience for the American people, something that actually deserves a little bit of oversight. Like I said, the social media is still the wild, wild west. So is AI, extreme wild, wild west. There has to be a little bit of oversight, especially when we're seeing these instances pop up. A little bit. There can't be like everybody do what they want. It's gonna go down a bad rabbit hole. Also, I think at the same time, the optics of this, the fact that there's mixed messaging. So YouTube is very laxed about this rules around the election and COVID, right? Like you said, you're happy about bringing people back.
They relaxed them after, wrongfully censoring.
But they're also saying we're gonna reward the misinformation peddlers and pay them millions of dollars, like President Trump at the same time, saying that the election was stolen. So what are the message that we're sending? He said he still walks around saying the election was stolen. So they're rewarding him millions of dollars and setting a terrible precedent.
Free speech, Lindsey.
Okay, you should want more from our president. We talk about the same thing all the time.
Well, that's a Trump problem, not a YouTube problem.
Well, they should want more from our president, too. They should not want people who consume hours and hours of information to be falsely led by somebody who's leading our entire country. That's state-run media, basically.
Well, I don't want them deciding what's true and false because they've gotten it wrong a lot.
The facts
I'll leave it to me to decide what's true and false, and I'll tell you what I think is true and false, and you can decide whether you agree with me or whether you agree with Lindsey.
Our audience is smart.
They are smart. I love our audience. I've learned a lot from them. That does it for us on Rising Live. Thanks for watching, and look out for more exclusive YouTube content coming your way later today. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel so you never miss any of our lovely content. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.